So I'm going to give you a couple different scenarios, and you tell me how you want me to react, or you tell me how you would react to each of these scenarios, okay? So in the first scenario, there's a young woman, and she gets dressed up. She looks really cute, and she goes to a frat party, and she has a little bit to drink. And there's a guy there who's had a little bit to drink, and he's doesn't really respect women and boundaries and things like that, and he rapes her. So that's scenario one. Here's scenario two. There's a middle-aged guy who is of African descent, possibly slave descent. I don't know, maybe an island or something like that. But whatever it is, he lives here in the States, and he has a lot of melanin in his skin, and so he's a very, very dark complexion. And he got caught, trying to use a forged $20 bill, and the cops accosted him, and things escalated, and the cops killed him. Now, if I came to you with the first scenario, and I said, Jenny, Susie, LaQuisha, whomever was at that party, and she got raped because she was wearing a sexy dress and got drunk, ugh, that would piss you off. But for some reason, if I say George Floyd was murdered because of the color of his skin, that's perfectly fine. But aren't they both victim blaming? Aren't they both victim shaming? So here's what I'm proposing. I'm proposing that we eradicate that phrase from our language. And here's why. So these days, people talk on the news, and they talk on talk shows, and they're on podcasts, and they're all over the place, and you hear this all over the place where they say, oh, I just don't know how we're going to fix race relations in this country. I don't know what to do. I don't know how we're going to be more accepting of each other. I don't know how we're going to fill in the blank. You see it all the time. I've seen it on CNN. I've seen it on Joe Rogan. I've seen it on the Colbert show, late night. Seth Meyers has said it. I mean, pick somebody who is a talking head on this little screen in front of you, and they've probably said something like that, where they've said, I don't know how we're going to fix this. I really don't know how we're going to fix this. It seems like it's broken or beyond repair, right? Well, I think that it's been broken beyond repair intentionally, right? I believe that the phrase, because of the color of his skin, her skin, has been weaponized by the liberal elites, conservative elites, powers that be, to keep people of color in their place, as it were. And I think that is very true. Because here's what it does. There's a psychological trick that's being played on you right now, okay? When I say so let's say I walked up to somebody, right? And I walked up to Eddie, and Eddie's a black guy. And I say, Eddie, because of the color of your skin, I'm gonna punch you in the face. I would probably get punched in the face. I would probably deserve it, right? Because that's a horrible thing to do to somebody. But if it's hidden in the language, if it's something that we all say, and it's something that makes you sound magnanimous. See, that's why it's diabolical too, is that it makes you feel magnanimous. It makes you feel like you're being compassionate, It makes you feel, especially as a white person, you get to say, oh, the poor guy, he was just killed because of the color of his skin. He couldn't help it. Poor guy. I'm going to protest. I'm going to get a little black fist and put it as my profile picture. I'm going to get a Black Lives Matter bumper sticker. Yeah, because the poor guy, he couldn't help it. He got murdered because of the color of his skin. Yeah, do you feel that emotion? Do you feel that little bit of sticky disgustingness in your heart? You should, because that's what it's doing to you, right? When you say that. If you try to be magnanimous, if you try to support the people who are oppressed because of the color of their skin. That's what's happening. But then what also happens is that people who have darker skin adopt it and they say, I'm being oppressed because of the color of my skin. So what it does, what that little phrase does, is it takes the person of color and puts them on the weaker foot. It puts them back a little bit. You know, they're on defensive already. Everywhere that they go, in every single thing that they do, and every single thing that they think about, and every single thing, everywhere, right? Because every action, every reaction, every thought, every instinct, every motive, like when they brush their teeth and look in the mirror and get up and go to work and try to do this and try to drive a car and like think of something that a human being does, right? And this has become such a deeply ingrained part of our vernacular that a person is naturally going to think, well, I'm doing that because of the color of my skin, because of the color of my skin, because of the color of my skin, because of the color of my skin. Right? And that's what happens. And it's happening on a subconscious level. You don't know it. You're not thinking about it. But it's there in the photographs that we see. It's there in the magazines. It's there in the depictions. It's there in the news. It's there in like all that other kind of stuff. And I think that if you ask like your average white person, are you doing that intentionally? They'd say, no, my God, no. I thought I was being compassionate. I thought I was being fair. I thought I was being honest and sincere and loving. I thought I was. Because that's the way that I've always been taught. Right? Well, what if you've always been taught that 2 + 2 = 3? What if you've always been taught that the world was created in 6 literal days? Right? What if you've always been taught that George Floyd was murdered because of the color of his skin? So here's what I'm proposing. And this is the hard part. So I'm proposing 2 things here, okay? One is that we all need to think about this. We all need to think about eradicating this from our language, right? And just like we did with the first example, where we say, you know, Jennifer went to the frat party and was wearing something sexy and then got raped, we start putting the blame on the rapist where it belongs, right? And then in a case of somebody like George Floyd, but like, see, in the case of the rapist, we don't even, in the rape situation, we don't even bring up the fact that she was wearing a sexy dress. We're like, okay, cool. Maybe you got yourself into a dangerous scenario. You step into a pit of vipers, you might get bit. Okay, but these aren't vipers, they're human beings, and they should know better, so they're going to be held accountable, you know? And if it was a viper that bit you, we'd chop its head off, and that'd be the end of this discussion, right? But because we've allowed this into the language, what happens is, and this is the other part of it that gets really kind of dark, and people aren't going to be able to stomach this very well, is that the phrase, because of the color of their skin, gives tacit permission to the Caucasian person, the white person, the lighter colored person, whatever it is, to commit oppression. And like I talked about a second ago, it almost, in a subtle way, gives a mandate to the person of color that they are in a position to only receive oppression in everything that they do. It's because of the color of your skin. It's because of the color of your skin, buddy. Sorry, I'm gonna have to punch you in the face. But that's happening on a subconscious level. And on a subconscious level, you know, black guy's driving the car and he's like, I'm just driving the car, I got my license, everything's fine, I'm gonna get pulled over. Getting pulled over because of the color of my skin, okay? So we have to eradicate that. But here's where the problem is gonna come, okay? So it's all well and good if we all start, like, get that out of our lexicon. We stop saying because of the color of their skin. And we just, like, it's not a piece of language anymore. You catch somebody saying it, you say, no, it's not because of the color of their skin. No, don't do that. If you catch yourself thinking it, you think, nope, it's because of the system, it's because of blah, blah, blah. Or better yet, you put the blame where it belongs. You say George Floyd was killed because the cop was a psychopath, right? Or you could say George Floyd was killed because of the color of the cop's skin. That stings a little bit more. That's going to create a lot of pushback. If people start going around and saying, nah, these black people are getting oppressed and suppressed because the cops are white, that's going to cause some issues. It's going to cause a lot of blowback. So please be careful. It may be true. It may very well be true, right? But where you're going to run into blowback with that is that, what if you have a black officer, you know, who shoots a black suspect or a white suspect? Because you know that that's going to open up a whole crazy can of worms, right? So think about that. Now, if you saw my earlier video about police reform, then this is a major component idea of my police reform video, right? None of those things in my police reform video are going to work without this kernel of an idea. You cannot reform the police department despite the Uniform Code of Police Justice and, you know, protest and doing all this other kind of stuff. You can try all that kind of stuff, but even that will never get anywhere unless you take this idea first. Consider this your red pill, okay? I'm giving you a red pill. Take your red pill. And the red pill is nothing happens to people because of the color of their skin, because that makes them the victim, right? So I'd like you to share this idea around, please. It's not an easy one. It's something I just kind of like came across as like an aha moment when I was having some debates on TikTok. But the more I shared it on TikTok and the more I talked about it and the more I kind of worked this out, the more I started to realize that, like, oh my God, this is a huge problem. So here's one of the examples I used on TikTok, right? If you try to think of all of the values that we place on human life, like, but like, I mean, achievable values, right? Like, if you're going to live your life and you're going to achieve certain goals, the things that we as a culture, in any culture really, they're sort of universal, are stuff like access to wealth, how good looking is somebody, how athletic is somebody, how philanthropic is somebody, how politically influential is somebody, how successful in the community is somebody, how is somebody's marital success and their family success, how high is their education level. You know, and these are the things, they're like the intangibles that we as a society assign to somebody to say, oh, you achieved an incredible amount of education, or you are fantastically athletic, or, oh my God, you're amazingly good looking, or look how philanthropic you are, right? If you take that whole list of the highest achievements of humanity, of the best qualities of humanity, and you find all of the people in the United States, possibly in the world, who either meet or exceed every single one of those criteria. Can you name a white one? I can't. You know who I think of? The Rock, Will Smith, Will and Jada, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Barack Obama and Michelle. Oh, Shaquille O'Neal. How can I forget Shaquille O'Neal? Dr. Shaquille O'Neal, by the way. Yeah, he has a PhD in education, right? NBA All-Star, monster human being. Okay, so he made the movie about the genie. Okay, whatever. You know, so did Will Smith. But, like, look what these people have achieved, right? Marital longevity, fantastic education, fantastically good looking. I mean, like Beyonce. I mean, you're not going to find anybody on earth who is more attractive, more athletic, a better business person, has more successful marriage, has like all of the things All of the things. She should be queen of humanity. But she's black. But the color of her skin. Right? And that's insane. That's insane. But it's because we've allowed that into our language. So we need to get rid of that in our language. If we get rid of that kernel of an idea, I believe you'd be surprised how quickly things would fall into place. If we stopped thinking like that as a collective, you know? So, I mean, some of my podcasts and some of the things, I'll talk about this a lot more later too, but like ideologies are so important. You have to think about the ideologies, right? There's, I think it's Carl Jung talked about, this is a paraphrase, but people don't have ideas as much as ideas have people. Think about that. So if you look at Christianity, atheism, Islam, Democrat, Republican, feminist, MGTOW, and men going their own way. I don't know, pick something. Socialist, capitalist. These are all ideas, and they're all ideologies. And what they do though is they give somebody like a framework within to think so that they don't have to think too much on their own. So they don't have to think outside of it at all. Because if you have like your nice little thing, then you can say, okay, well, everything fits in that box. Everything fits in that box. And if it doesn't fit in that box, you pitch it. And one of the boxes that we all have is that George Floyd was murdered because of the color of his skin. That's an ideology. And it needs to go away. It's an incredibly, it may be the single most dangerous, highly weaponized ideology that has ever come across our society. Because all it does is divide us. That's all it does. All it does is divide and make people of color feel bad about their own body, feel bad about their own skin, feel bad about their own life. So let's change that. I challenge you, I'm begging you, I'm asking you to change that. Change the way that you think about that, you know? And replace something else. You know, say maybe, no, actually don't even replace it with anything else. Replace it by putting the blame where it belongs, okay? You know, so-and-so was oppressed, so-and-so was harassed by the cops because the cop is part of a psychopathic institution. So therefore, we need to acknowledge that all this time we've been victim blaming and that all this time we've been perpetuating a psychopathic institution. And you can take these two ideas, I'm telling you, we could change this country almost overnight, you know? So again, I'm counting on my 6 degrees of separation. Please, if you have any way of getting this idea, take this idea and run with it. Claim it as your own. I really don't care. It's an idea that has to be spread. It's an idea that has to get out there, right? It has to get into the police departments. It has to get into the hands of Joe Rogan and the Weinstein brothers. And like, we need Jordan Peterson talking about this. We need Stephen Colbert talking about this. We need Seth Meyers talking about this. We need like all these people to start saying, oh shit, we've been doing this all along and didn't even know we were doing anything harmful. You know, it's kind of like, you know, they used to recommend cigarettes. We know cigarettes were a great healthy thing for years and years and years. It was wonderful. Cigarettes are so good. No, not so much. You know, it's saying thus and such happened because of the color of so-and-so's skin. It's not helpful. It's just not. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. So, thank you very much for your time. Follow me, like, subscribe. Is that what I'm supposed to say? There's probably going to be a video in a second that'll say, hey, go watch this one. And there'll be a little button that says, yeah, go. I get switched around because I'm like, got the camera going around. Whatever. Follow me. Share me around. You know, this is good stuff. It's great stuff. I love you all very much. And if we implement this, I do think it can work. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.